Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm from AMA Podiatry and Sports Health, and the purpose of today's video is to give you some simple footwear advice on the features that you should look for in your shoes. These features can apply to all of your shoes, but they're particularly important in the shoes that we do our major activities in, whether that be sport or at work every day. Okay, so the three features we're going to talk about today are adequate fixation, a shank, and a heel counter. So with our sports footwear, adequate fixation is the easiest part. That's just our laces, okay? So we want the laces done up nice and firmly, right to the top, so that the shoe is held in the foot, so the two can work in tandem as best as possible. So that means undoing our shoes each time we take them off and redoing them each time we put them back on. The other features that we want to look at are the heel counter. So heel counter is what makes the back of the shoe nice and firm. So you can see with the back of this shoe, they can't depress or squash in the back of the shoe. That's because there's a nice piece of plastic right through the back of the shoe here, holding it in form so that we reduce any motion that may occur in our heel bone on the leg bone. Okay, so we're keeping them as straight as we can and reducing any abnormal biomechanics to that area as much as we can. The second feature we're looking at is a shank. So the shank is what makes the shoe nice and rigid from the rear foot through the midfoot. Okay, so this is really nice and clear with this example in this shoe. It's just the nice grey plastic we can see here in the middle of the shoe, and that extends from the heel right down to the forefoot. Okay, so that makes the shoe nice and rigid through this area where we don't want the shoe to flex, but allows the shoe to flex really nice and easily at the forefoot where our foot is designed to flex. Okay, so for example, for the best propulsion that we're looking for and the most efficient running, we want our foot to flex through the metatarsophalangeal joints, with the rest of the foot becoming a rigid lever for that active propulsion. Okay, so the shank allows that to happen and reduces any other motion that goes on the foot to some degree. Okay, so they're the three features we want to look at, and they're the ones that you should be able to look for in most of your shoes. So the simple tests, just as a reminder, are obviously laces, adequate fixation. So in other footwear that might just be a buckle or a strap around the front of the ankle, but in this case laces, and heel counter so it can't squash the back of the shoe, and shank, the shoe only flexes at the forefoot. Okay, just thought I'd briefly touch on obviously some of the fads in footwear at the moment. The major one being really lightweight and deconstructed footwear. Okay, so footwear where they take out some of the features that I've just spoken about. So they're alright as sometimes shoes, but not shoes we want to do for our really high intense activities and repetitive activities like ones where we're running, because if we're doing that regularly a few times a week, we're putting a lot of stress on the tissues, particularly in our feet, lower limbs, and up into our backs and so on. So one of the most popular examples is the Nike Free. Okay, so really good looking shoe, really nice and lightweight, really comfortable, but better for shorter activities and not repetitive ones that we do several times a week and for lengthy periods of time, particularly if you have some biomechanical abnormalities, because it's just going to put some pressure in some other areas. You can just see that we take out the heel counter of the shoe, so more rear foot motion. We take out the shank of the shoe, so it flexes in places where ideally we don't really want the foot to flex. So it's okay for short activities and as a bit of a casual shoe, but not something that we want to wear if you're going to be training a lot. Say if you're a TDC Cup footballer or you're training for triathlon or something like that, you're just going to be putting a fair bit of stress on your body wearing that shoe. Okay, so if you want any more footwear advice, feel free to get in contact with us at AMA Podiatry and Sports Health. Obviously, there's a lot of footwear out there, and some footwear is slightly better for one person, not as good for another. But those basic three features that I spoke about, the shank, heel counter, and adequate fixation, are the three things you should look for. Otherwise, get in contact with us and we can have a bit more of a discussion about it. Thanks for your time.